Hey everybody, in this week's shop, we're going over my 2025 Bass Cat Yamaha tournament rig. It's a new model. It's got lots of new equipment. It's a new year. You don't want to miss this shop. It's going to be good. That same thought process, that goes into designing lures or rods or reels or baits, you put into your boat. And I think that, for a professional angler that's been fishing for a while, you have your own unique sets of wants and needs for what you have to compete out of, right? For your style. So, these boat builds that we do every year, they're really, really important. This is the place that I go to work in every day when it's tour season. Designing a boat, doing a boat build with everything that you need personally for how you perform is really, really important. I've been super, super lucky with these manufacturers that I work with, right? Bass Cat since 2006, Yamaha since 2002, Lowrance from the very beginning, 1999. All these companies, PowerPole. You look at, as we walk through this, the equipment. A lot of these manufacturers I've been with for a very, very long time. And so to combine that with building your own custom rig, it's one of the highlights of the year for me. The other great thing about this particular build is this is a new boat model for me. When you look at my career, like the last 8 or 10 seasons, I've been in a Bass Cat Cougar FTD. And I love that, but I still love that model. Bass Cat Cougar FTD. But this year, we went with a new model. And the reason for me is, there's a couple. The first one is I just felt like I needed a change. I felt like the Puma for me was getting a little stagnant and I felt like I needed a change. The other part of it is all of my peers who were in this boat raved about it to the point where I had to get in one myself. So last year during the middle of the season, I jumped in one of the guys' boats, Stetson Blaylock, let me jump in his boat. And I got to ride in this thing. And that's really like the ultimate. Like I think, even when you're buying a truck, right? You're buying a new Toyota Tundra. You want to get in, you want to drive, you want to feel it. So I got a chance to do that last year. And I was impressed with so many things about this model. So this is a new model. This is the Bass Cat Puma STS, which was a new model, I think, a year or two ago. So brand new boat, Yamaha show on the back again, but really, really proud of this boat. The other part of it isn't just picking the stuff you need, right? You could sit home and pick stuff and I need this, 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 this. But putting it together, the build itself and the way that things are wired or hooked up is ultra important. And I've had a chance to work with a really good guy, my friend Darrin, over at Integrated BOATWORKS. They're down in Oklahoma. And this is the second year I've had a chance to work with him on building this. And I got to tell you guys, listen, I've done a lot of boat builds. I've been doing these builds literally since 2000, right? So 25 years of boat builds. Working with Integrated has been really easy, has been a great fun process, and the work is clean. So let's start in the back. I want to give you a walkthrough of my 2025 Bass Cat Cougar. I want to give you a walkthrough of my 2025 Bass Cat I've been in a Cougar so long, a Cougar so long. I want to give you a walkthrough of my brand new 2025 Bass Cat Puma STS with a Yamaha show. Been in another boat too long. The back is the powerhouse of the boat. So I always like to start back here with the motor. You're going to see a very familiar motor on my new rig this year, and it's that show. It's the Yamaha SHO VMAX. It's a 250 horsepower, 4-stroke engine. Man, I could spend an hour raving about all the things that this motor provides. But the number one thing that I'm going to tell you is reliability. Man, I'm super, super hard on these motors. Ask anybody. Go back in the annals of my tournament career and you're going to see rough water, skinny water, gone places you shouldn't go, gone fast, fuel, you know, all those things, long runs. This gives me peace of mind to get there and back. So Yamaha Show 250 on the back again. But, you know, I've got some unique things that I do that I want to show you with the rigging. A hydraulic plate on this motor, in my opinion, is one of the most important add-ons for me. So this is the Atlas TH Marine plate. And, you know, I can go up and down, look at that, almost, you know, 12 inches, right? So I can get this thing, right now it's in the up position with a hydraulic turn switch. I'm going to show you up at my steering wheel, just like a turn signal switch. I can get this thing down. So, you know, in the up position, great for trailering, great for skinny water. Guys, think about really ultra shallow water, like we're getting ready for a tournament on Lake Okeechobee. I have to get up on pad in water that's that deep. I could never do that with a fixed plate. I could never do that with no hydraulic plate. So, you know, trimmed all the way up for me is getting on pad in really skinny water. Ultra, ultra important. I can control this. I could pull it down 6 inches. When that hydraulic plate is in the middle, to me, boat performs at its best. It's middle of the road everything, right? So I ride with that plate in the middle position a lot. But what about all the way down, guys? And the ability to bring this whole motor hydraulically 12 inches down. And the thing that's great about that is really big rough water. We have events on places that get big. So I'm talking about things like Lake Erie, the Great Lakes, Lake Okeechobee, running across the bay, and getting that plate all the way down in the totally down position lets me get more control, right? So I have more control in big waves. I have easier bow lift in deep water. You know, a lot of control there. And there it goes right there. There's the name. It's the leash. And if you look at this thing, you look at it at first and you're like, man, what the heck is that contraption? But this is a safety feature. I've never added this piece of equipment before, but too many boat accidents in the last few years where this motor gets loose, gets off the back of the boat, okay? We had an incident last year on the Elites where it happened. There was another incident locally where it happened. And I've heard of stories over the years where, listen, guys, if you hit something going 60 or 70 miles an hour and it's solid, like it's got no give to it, it's simple science, right? That motor, the impact is going to raise that motor. If the impact is so hard where that motor gets up and those bolts get sheared, it has happened, it could happen. I never want that motor to come up in the boat. That motor comes up into the boat, it's going to kill you, or it's going to kill your partner, or it's going to kill your camera guy. So I added this year as a safety measure to keep that motor. Chances are slim, but if it ever happens, I don't want that motor in the boat. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. I'd have to say since the mid-2000s. But this is a product that I never, ever, ever, ever not put on my bass boat belts now. And it's my Power Pulse. And I want to take these sleeves. By the way, these neoprene sleeves are pretty awesome. Shout out to Rod Warrior. This is the same sleeve that I've had on these boats for about 10 years. So that tells you how tough they are. But guys, this is the Power Pole blade. You could get these things in different lengths. This year I went with the 8-foot blade. I've used the bigger ones, I've used smaller ones, but the 8-foot blade to me is a really good happy medium size. And it has become such an essential piece of equipment, not just when I'm fishing, but the whole process, okay? So, you know, just to run down a few, I'm using these Power Poles when I launch the boat. I'm by myself a lot. I back the boat in, I tie up to a dock or pull up to the boat ramp, I put the poles down. I use them while I'm fishing. If I'm 0 to 8 feet and I'm flipping and I get a bite, I want to stop and fish the area thoroughly. I put them down, taking a break, eating lunch, even slowing my drift. Guys, if I get out in deep water or I get out in current and I want to slow my drift down a little bit, I put my poles down. And even without the paddles, they sell paddles. Even without the paddles, these things will slow my drift. So essential piece of equipment. These are the 8-foot blades. Would never, ever, 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 guys, build a boat without these anymore. You're going to see something that's really familiar down here. And it is, there's that Lowrance. This is the side imaging transducer. And this is the transducer that does the work when I'm idling, right? When I'm doing my console work in my boat. So I'm scanning, I'm looking for shells, I'm looking for fish, I'm looking for sandbars, I'm looking for all that stuff. When you're doing your work, this Lowrance transducer is the workhorse. So down imaging, 2D, side imaging, okay? And this is on probably the best mount that I've ever used. And it's by a company called Transducer, Shield, and Saver. But here's the deal, guys. If you look at it, I've got this Lowrance transducer on both sides of my jack plate, right? It's a jack plate mounted deal, so it keeps it out of the way, the prop wash of the outboard. It's super, super sturdy. I've run over stuff with these, but I've got two. And the reason is, guys, stuff happens. And you're going to see in a lot of the stuff on this boat, it's repetitive. It's repetitive. And the reason is, it's backup. It's total backup, right? So if I'm out there and I'm idling standing timber, we have a tournament on Lake Fork this year, and for some reason I hit a tree just right, and I rip this transducer off, the right one. Guess what, guys? I got another one on the left ready to go, right? So repetition in a scenario where I don't have time to go put another one on. I can't give away 2 or 3 hours of idling to go back to the Lowrance trailer. So I simply just switch my sources. If this one gets damaged or ripped off or something happens, I go to my other one. So transducer, shield, and saver mounts with double Lowrance side imaging transducers. Real big key on my builds. I do want to show you one other thing that I've been doing the last 2 or 3 years on these builds, and it's really, really cool. And here's this is factory, guys. This is your factory light pole. It's should be always on the starboard side. This is where I'm going to put my light pole in, to have my my stern light. Okay, but if we go to the other side, now I'm always every build I'm putting another one in on the port side, on the left side. And the deal with this is, if you look, I can always keep this YOLO Tech in place now. I can always keep this in place, and I don't have to have a power source for it. It's constant power on this one. So basically, I put my thing in, I turn my camera on, and I can keep my camera running all day. The other great thing, this is that YOLO Tech power stick, is that these new ones also have a light. So if you're going through in the morning and you're going through line to check out, right? You know that process. Everybody goes through and they look at your Livewells, they make sure your lights are working. If in an emergency situation, something happened to that light, I got one right here. And I just have to plug in that USB, and I have a spare light as well on the back. So big add for me the last few years is just adding another light base. Just a cool little touch right there. Integrated BOATWORKS, doing a lot of cool custom stuff. This is just a little flush mount plug for my battery charger. So that's nice. It just makes, there's no wires hanging out or whatever, but little touches like that, it's clean, saves a lot of time, saves me some effort too. I do want to show you a little bit of my power source. So now we're going to take a look at my batteries, my battery layout, a system that I created to always have power, and then we're going to look at the charger, and I also just want to show you the general layout of this as well. Little bit bigger back deck, guys. Again, this is a new Bass Cat model for me. So this is the Puma STS, and they did a really cool thing and split the battery box, which on my Cougar, I didn't have that. So I like that a lot. So if you look at it, we actually have a split battery box. And that's nice because, you know, if you're working on one side, you don't even have to open the side. You can keep it covered, and it just has a lot more room when you split the box like that, okay? So look at all that room. And when I'm talking about a lot of room, I mean literally, guys, look at how spacious this box is. It's so big. I'm actually going to get in here a little bit and show you. Just a ton of room, okay? So bigger, more roomy battery compartment in this Puma STS. I'm actually sitting in one, but we have little side trays. I love this because I'm going to be able to put some tools back here. I'm going to be able to store some spare Yamaha oil just in case in one of these trays. So a lot of extra storage room. And then bigger gas tanks, guys, in this year's boat. I went from 2 25-gallon tanks to 2 30-gallon tanks. So now my fuel capacity is 60 gallons. That's a big deal. Listen, if you're watching this and you're a tournament angler, you're probably saying 10 gallons is a big deal. If you're a regular fisherman, maybe not. But, you know, I feel like there's going to be less gas stops for me next year. Big runs. If I'm making a 2-hour run, an hour and a half run, less gas stops with 10 extra gallons. Let's get to the batteries. And never batteries or power been more important than right now. When you think about everything that we're putting in these boats, between depth finders and forward facing and lights and sound and trolling motors and all this stuff, running cameras. Dude, so much power. We need a lot of power. And without a doubt, one of the best things that I did a few years ago is I made the switch from traditional batteries, regular AGM, lead acid style batteries, to lithium batteries. And I went to Pro Guide batteries. So the lithium batteries, you know, when you feel these things, dude, they're so light. These batteries are 20 pounds, maybe some of them are a little more than 20 pounds compared to 80, 90, or 100 pounds per battery on the old style. So guys, I'm shaving, not like 5 pounds, 10 pounds. I'm shaving hundreds of pounds of weight out of the back of this boat with these Pro Guide lithiums. Charge back time. Guys, this is a big one for me. I remember the days with the old batteries, I would practice dark to dark. I'd come home, I'd plug my batteries in, I'd come out the next morning, and they weren't even fully charged because now I'm up at sunrise again, right? I had 10 hours charging and they're not charged back. Lithiums charge back quick, guys. So all these Pro Guides, like honestly, like 3-4 hours of charge back time, boom, back at full capacity. the power is just unbelievable. And, you know, there's no curve. There's no down curve on lithiums. So the old style batteries, you would feel them giving way. At the end of the day, you'd be down here on power. With the Pro Guide lithiums, dude, 100% power the whole day. I want to start on the cranking starting side, and I want to show you this system where it's a system that I created with Pro Guide, with the help from Darrin at Integrated BOATWORKS, and I can tell you guys 100%, it is the best battery system, the best battery layout, everything that I've ever used, and I'll never be without power, okay? So let's show you how this works. All right, guys, so on my cranking, starting, anything electronic, so we're talking depth finders, bilge pumps, cameras, all that stuff. We have our left side here. And we're using the Pro Guide 31 M100 starting cranking batteries on this side. And when you look at them, dude, this is an amazing battery. You actually have, see if I can show you on here, we have little light indicators on these things. You just press that and we're going to see our power level. That's a cool little feature. The other thing you're going to see is, dude, look at the terminals. So these are 3-point connection terminals, right? So, you know, I like this because it makes these wiring situations clean. You see a lot of batteries that just have one. You know, I've got 3 here, which I love, so I can split up those terminals. But let's look at this system. So I'm running 2 31 M100s in parallel, right? So I'm getting double the power to run everything in this boat that's electronic based, okay? Now here's the deal, guys. I want to show this to you, okay? This is a Perco style power switch that I put in. Of course, it's on a breaker, just like everything should be. But I have the options now, guys, to change where my power source is. So my normal configuration is I go to 1. And on 1, I'm running off both of these batteries. Guys, this will get you through literally 2 days of fishing with everything on, no problem, if you wanted to do that. And plenty of power, dark to run everything. But if you look back here, you're going to see a third 31 M100. And this one is sitting in reserve, and this is my emergency battery. This is my oh shit battery if something happens, okay? And it's real easy. So if I'm trying to give you some scenarios, if I don't know, I forgot to charge for 2 days, or my outlet, the rental house I was staying at, the outlet went bad and I didn't realize it and they didn't get charged. If something happens to these two, guys, all I have to do is come back here. I go to my switch. I go from number 1. I rig these on number 1 to number 2. When I go to number 2, I'm running off my reserve battery, okay? Unbelievable system, you know, fail-proof, because I always have power no matter what, okay? And I could even run all 3 of them if I wanted to with the switch on 1 and 2 together, okay? Super, super cool system. Now, exact same system, guys. Trolling motor side, exact same system, okay? Little bit different batteries, but exact same system. So on this side, this is for my Lowrance Ghost trolling motor. I'm running the 36-volt M50s, okay? And I have 2 in series. I have 2 parallel together. And the same thing with our switch, guys. If you look, there's my breaker. When I go to number 1, now my trolling motor is running off of 2 36-volt trolling motor batteries in series. Dude, that is enough power to run that trolling motor like 2 or 3 days in a row without charging it, okay? Unbelievable amount of power, more than you would ever need. But here it goes again, right? Listen, something happened. You had a faulty plug. Your cord got cut. Your cord got unplugged. Something happens where these aren't charged anymore. Guys, here it goes. All I have to do is go up to my switch. I come over. and I can switch it to number 2. And when I do that, there's my standalone 36 that I can run that trolling motor all day on one of these 36-volt batteries. So safe, failure-proof, fail-proof, emergency backup if something ever happened to those 2 batteries. On this year's build, I'm running the brand new Pro Guide battery charger. And I'm just running a simple 2-bank battery charger back here. So I have 1 bank to the cranking side, 1 bank to the trolling motor side. And again, with that flush mount plug, I just plug that thing in every night. And because they're lithium, super quick charge back time. And that Pro Guide charger is just real clean. Guys, it's so clean, you almost don't even see it sitting back there. But of course, it's got LED lights on it too. And every morning when I come out, I look and just make sure it's green. But that thing is a nice, clean mount. It's only 2 banks. It's not heavy. It stays out of the way. And that's my charging system for all my main batteries. The one thing that hasn't changed is the Bass Cat Livewells are so unbelievable. The shape of them, very unique. If you look at most bass boat Livewells, they're square or rectangle shaped. A lot of them have really small access. It's hard to get in there and find your fish. It's hard to put big fish in your Livewells. So the Puma STS has the same big, giant, triangle-shaped wells in here. So super deep Livewells, just forever deep. Great pumping systems on them. Just an amazing Livewell system. On our 2 back hatches, these have increased in size just a little bit for me. And I always like more than less. So we do have a new latching system on these, which is really, really cool. If you see it, it's really flush. So nothing's going to catch your foot. And literally, you just pop that, and it pops open. You're going to see a whole nother video on how I store stuff. We're going to talk about that. But if you look, I have all my heavy stuff back here. So, you know, tungsten weights. Like that box alone weighs like probably, I don't know, 8 pounds. Jig heads, Carolina rig weights, skirted jigs, like things that are real heavy. Drop shot weights. Things that are real heavy, I'm storing in the back, okay? So this hatch right behind my seat is basically a lot of my terminal tackle, real heavy terminal tackle and jigs. And then when we come to this side, here guys, same thing. This is the hatch I use for all of my like emergency stuff, which a lot of it's heavy. So you see my tool bag, where if I had to change a prop, I got wrenches in here. Here's my box of wrenches. I've got a first aid kit. I've got toilet paper. You got to have toilet paper. I mean, stuff happens on the water. You know that. Fire extinguisher, throwable, even marker buoys. I still keep marker buoys, guys. All that stuff's in there. So that's boating stuff. Pretty heavy. Put your heavy stuff toward the back of the boat. One of the cool things about these Bass Cats, and the Puma STS is no different, is storage under the seats. Super comfortable high back seats, but I'll just show you kind of what I use my under seat storage for. So I'll always keep a helmet with me, and this is just one of the face mask style, hockey mask style helmets. If it starts hailing or pouring rain or there's mist in your face or bugs, it's nice to have a helmet, right? Just in case. And I store that in there. And then, of course, my dry box for my boat registration, insurance, boater's safety card, all that stuff goes in there. We got the middle hatch, guys. And pretty cool here where you've got like your little glove box. You can just keep, you know, your keys, your phone in there, and that stores up. And then right underneath, I've got a cooler, and that's a great spot. And I can keep water and ice and drinks and food in there. So really nice little spot. And then on the passenger side seat, guys, I also keep spare props. So I've got a spare outboard prop and a spare trolling motor prop under there, just cockpit. But guys, most of the work happens right here. I spend more time in this driver's seat than anywhere else. So, important place in the boat. They're mounted on that dual BOATWORKS mount. And this is about the, I want to say the 5th or 6th year I've used the BOATWORKS mount. Dude, they are bulletproof. Like, all this is adjustable, by the way, but it is a bulletproof mount. Like, these things aren't coming off. They aren't getting loose. They're staying stable. I love the BOATWORKS mount. If you're staying at a hotel or you stop at a restaurant, it's just a little peace of mind that somebody's not going to come out and just rip these things off, okay? So I'm using the E-locks on every unit. Let's get these things fired up, and I'll give you an idea of how I'm splitting the screens. While I'm waiting for these things to fire up, I'll show you this other thing that's sitting here on the console, which is pretty cool. And this has been an addition on these boats probably for, probably 10 years or more now. And basically I'm using a ram mount. This is the mid-sized ball, mid-sized arm, and I have the ability to run an iPad, okay? So when we talk about information, it's just another point of information for me, right? I've got my 2 HDS 12 Lowrance Pros. Everything's right here where I need to see it. And then right to my left here, I can slide in an iPad, satellite imagery, Google Earth historical images, tide charts, tide predictions, information on locks, right? If I'm locking, all that stuff. It's a lot easier to access that on its own device, okay? So I have this iPad mount right here, and it's nice too because I can spin it out of the way or put it wherever I want. All right, guys, I want to just go over the typical layout of how I use these units. We'll start with the left HDS 12 Pro, and this is my really traditional setup I use. Obviously, the mapping is super, super important. It's showing me where I'm at on the lake. It's showing me contours, depths, all that stuff. But the 2D is also important. You think about that as being old school, but the 2D runs off of a through-hole transducer. So guys, what that means is I have an accurate bottom depth reading when I'm on pad. So if I'm going 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, it keeps an eye on the bottom, right? Not just for safety, not just for depth, but, you know, for rises, for drops, for bait. I can still see all those things on 2D when I'm running on pad. The nice thing about the dual mapping is I can switch it. So a lot of times I'm going to use Lowrance C mapping, but sometimes I want to add Navionics to it. So I can come in here and change one of those chart sources. And when I do that, now I've got Navionics, C maps, and 2D all in one unit. And every once in a while, I'll cross-reference those two different maps, and it'll help me find something. It'll help me find a key location. But more often than not, guys, I just use that one right there. All right, let's get over to my right Lowrance HDS 12 Pro. And this honestly is, now this is where a lot of the work is getting done. And this is my favorite setup for this screen, guys. And it is a split screen, but it's split this way, right? Not this way. It's not down the middle. It's split up and down. And on the bottom, I'm doing side imaging. And traditionally, guys, I like my side imaging anywhere from 120 feet right and left, all the way into about 80 feet right and left. But I really, if I had one depth that I'm going to pick, it's 100 feet right and left. So, you know, so this white line is center. So that's where my boat's at. And I can look 100 feet to the right, and I can look 100 feet to the left. And I'm looking for anything, guys. I'm looking for, you know, stumps, rocks, humps, dips, fish, bait, veins, ditches, whatever. And, you know, when you're using it, literally the nice thing about this Lowrance is, let's say this little mark here was a piece of standing timber. All I have to do is put the X on it. When I put the X on it, and I hit my blue waypoint key, I could save that as a waypoint. Whatever icon I want, I could save that. And when I do that, it marks it to the spot, like right on the juice, okay? So love that. So side imaging on the bottom, and then down imaging on the top, okay? So down imaging, using that same Lowrance LCS transducer in the back and giving me a perspective from the down view. And I like these two to have different color palettes, okay? So these are my two favorite, guys, if you're looking. On the side imaging, I like to use that blue palette. It's number 11 on the Lowrance unit. And on my down imaging, I like to use that amber, which is palette selection number 6. And having different colors makes stuff pop a little better, right? So you see it on side imaging, then you see it on down imaging, and you could almost compare the images. You can go over to 2D, cross-reference it there a little bit. And it just helps you get detail on what you're looking for, okay? So love that as well. By the way, I do add water temperature and time always to one of these units as well. So in this case, I have it on my left unit. I have my surface temp, real important, especially in those spawn tournaments. And then I also have my time. If you're a tournament angler, you always want your time up there as well. But guys, keep in mind, in BASS Elite regulations for 2025, we are limited to 52 inches of screen size. So really kind of had to think that out. It didn't change anything here. 2 12s, 24 inches, my math's okay. When I go to the front, I'm going to change my configuration a little bit to fall within 52 inches of screen size. All right, let's shut these off, and I want to keep going with the rest of this walkthrough here at the console. And I do have some other stuff that is sort of special to the way that I rig a boat. Of course, I talked about the iPad holder that I mount on a ram ball that's right here. I also do another ram mount right behind these units, and this one is the small ball ram mount, okay? So that's the mid-size, this one's the small. But then I usually put it on a long arm, and I'll just tighten that down and show you here. And now I have another mount, and I use a lot of this for my action cams. You could use it for a cell phone. You could use it for all sorts of stuff. But right below that now, to make everything almost seamless, I just put a little USB, a dual port USB mount. So that way, if I'm running my GoPro or action cam up here, I can just run down and plug right in. Or a cell phone or whatever, I go down and just plug it right in. Okay, so no problem there. When you look at the gauges, guys, on my console, I've actually had some gauges added. You know, we are in a digital age, and the Yamaha digital gauge, you can see everything right here, okay? When I turn this thing on and fire this thing up, I can see everything right here. I can scroll through, like, look at the menus. How many hours I have, RPMs, trim height. I can do everything. But that's all digital gauging, okay? And you heard me say it before, guys. I like to have repetitive systems in place. And I'm an old school guy a little bit. So I added a couple gauges. I want to show those to you. I added the Yamaha analog fuel gauge, okay? So I've got a fuel gauge here that I know exactly what my gallons are. If something ever happened over here in the digital space, I have an old school analog gauge that shows me my fuel capacity, okay? Real important add for me. You heard me mention that hydraulic plate, okay? Here it goes, up and down, okay? Got it on the turn signal. This is a TH Marine. It's called a Pro Trim. So it controls my hydraulic plate. And also, there's a gauge, this Atlas gauge that reads out to whatever the height is. So, you know, I go down to 19. I go down to 17. I could equate a number to where that jack plate is set and really get it fine-tuned. If you're into performance, guys, this is a really good system because then you could dial in your top end or fuel fuel consumption and get it perfect, okay? So I added that gauge. And then last but not least on the gauges that I added, I'll come over and show you that this is another one that I always like to add. And I feel like it's underutilized by guys. But this is a analog pounds per square inch, a PSI gauge. And that's, guys, that's a water pressure gauge. It's an analog water pressure gauge that I use a lot. If you fish shallow, if you like fishing in that much water like I do, power fishing, if you like running in the backwaters or flats, grass flats that run for miles, dude, that's a must, is knowing your PSI. So, you know, I look back and you can see the motor spitting, but I always have an idea of my pounds per square inch, and I want to keep that engine cool. So I add that as well. A couple little custom things that I do. All right, let's keep going. I do want to real quick show you on the Puma, on the Bass Cat Puma STS, this is an all-new control panel. And I really, really like this a lot. You know, you have all your functions highlighted in really easy-to-use button keys. So we've got our gas gauge. So we go from left to right, highlights it in a different color. We've got our fan key that aerates all the hatches. Accessory switch number 1, it's all my underlighting. So if you look under here, I've got some cool Bass Cat underlighting. Looks a lot cooler when it's dark, but also have it under all these grab bars. Then we've got the really cool bright TH Marine rock lighting. Got them all across the deck. Super cool. We've got our Livewell pump in, Livewell pump out. We've got our recirculate and aerator switches, all running on lights as well, let you know what mode they're in. Our navigational lights. We've got a secure alarm system that's standard. And then we've got our bilge pump right there and a horn. This is normally where I'm going to put my phone. So I put just a cool little RAM mount phone holder right down here. It's a V-split RAM holder. You can put in any size phone, Android or iPhone. And then you're going to notice I put one of my power pole switches right here. It's real easy to get at. If I want to put my poles down when I'm launching, I use this switch a lot. So I've actually got 3 of these mounted, 2 at the console and 1 up front, but this is a good place to mount that. I do want to mention that the Puma STS is a lot roomier and has a lot of really cool additional features. So the flooring gets a lot of abuse, right? From your feet, you can even see, you know, I've had sandy feet coming in here. You got gravel, dirt. So instead of old school traditional carpet, they put that, I think this is the 2-ply, like marine mat material in there. Super, super cool. I love this because it holds up well. You can clean it real easy, takes the abuse. The other real cool thing on this Puma STS that I want to mention is this well, this drain well configuration they have. You know, on a lot of boats, your drain well is one little circle, like literally like the size of a $50, right? It's just a little circle drain well. But on the STS, they put this really long rectangle-shaped drain well with these grates. Guys, the one thing that could really get you in trouble is water. So if you're taking some waves on, if you're spearing a few waves, even the best boat drivers in the world, you're going to take water over. That configuration of that drain well gets the water to the bottom of the boat, and then the bilges get the water out. So I love that. I do have a JL Audio marine speaker system in this boat. And instead of having a real big head unit, you know, like a head unit that takes up space, I really don't have the space on my console. This JL Audio deal is just on a little remote, okay? So the cool thing about that is it's all Bluetooth. So if you're out and you're not into hardcore tournament fishing situation, you're having fun, you want to hear a little music, the JL Audio Bluetooth system is really, really cool. Let me remind you, this is a different layout than my old, the old Cougar, right? Cougar FTD, different layout. This is the Puma STS. And one of the additional things that I love is, guys, they have a giant accessory hatch, storage hatch, before you ever get to that front deck. On the Puma STS, this is a new storage area for me. It's kind of dual purpose, and I want to make sure I mention this to you guys. So I'm primarily going to use this for storage. So I'm going to use this big hatch now to do my scales, to do my cull beams, to do my culling. I have my lure accessories in here. I'm going to have my spike it markers, my glue in here. I'm going to have my Livewell treatments in here, guys. Here's that. You're going to see a lot more about this coming up. But here's all my buzzer rocks. Here's my blood stop spray for when they're hooked really deep. Here's my tablets for my Livewell treatment. Real easy to use. I know exactly how much to put in. They're pre-measured tablets. All that stuff is going to stay in this thing. Ice. I got to keep those Livewells cool. This also doubles as a cooler. I can just remove that stuff. I could throw it in under one of the seats, and I could add like 2 full bags of ice right in that storage compartment. So I love that about this new Puma STS. All right, before I even start to get into these hatches, I do want to say something. And I want to say, look how much wider this Puma STS is. Like, I gained, I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing I've gained like 6 inches of width on each side, and I gained a little bit of length on the nose of the boat. So, you know, more room up here. Dude, look at it all. Dude, look how giant that thing is up there. That's a win for me. That's a big win to have all this additional space. The way that I like to fish, if I catch a big one, I might do a breakdance move. And that's a great breakdancing platform up front. Start with the front hatch, guys. Very similar layout on how I store tackle from last year, but I want to go over it with you again. And this is my biggest front storage compartment. And this is what I'm going to use to store my soft plastics, guys, okay? I have a couple extra bags loaded in here just to get down to where I'm going, but give you an idea of kind of how I'm using this stuff, okay? So, you know, I'm using these Flambeau boxes, and I'm storing my soft plastics in these boxes. So, let's see here. We can go with any of these. I'll show you this one. This is my worm box, okay? So I've got my boxes, and I can hold, let me see, I can hold 4 of these that way on each side, so that's 8. And I could do 2 of them this way, so that's 4 more. So that's 12 boxes I can get in this front hatch. And they're basically, guys, all my soft plastics. So, you know, this one's worms. So you go in there, and I got my Maxen hit worms. I've got my bottom hoppers, right? And, you know, I'm not carrying 50 bags of each one. But I'm going in and actually doubling or tripling the count. So I've got like 2 or 3 or 4 bags in one bag of those worms. And that's enough to get me through a couple days of competition. Even with that amount of boxes, they're not as heavy as jigs or worm weights. Remember, all your heavy stuff in the back, your lighter stuff up front. New configuration here, guys, with this double split hatch on the Puma STS. And I like it a lot because the way that I have it in my mind is all of my traditional crankbaits are going to be on the right side. All of my other treble hook lures are going to be on the left side. So, you know, I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So, on my right side, traditional crankbaits. Once again, this is that Flambeau Slim Tough Tainer. I've got my square bills, okay, the square bulls. So open that box for you real quick, just to let you see. So entire box of square bulls, some different colors, some different sizes, just the key stuff that I need. And I'm going to have all my crankbaits in there. There's my dimes, you know, all my traditional crankbait style lures are going to be in this front hatch. On the other side, if you look, I've got treble hook lures that are the more untraditional treble hook lures. So I've got lipless, I've got walking baits, top waters, jerk baits. There's a look at some of those Stunner 100s, separated by color and size. So again, these aren't very heavy, right? So the closer I get to the nose of the boat, the lighter I want those tackle items to be, right? So that's pretty light. If you're a tournament guy and you're allowed to use a net, whether it's individual competition or if you're fishing buddy tournaments or you're fishing with your family, your wife, your kids, using a net, right? We can't use them in the elites, but if you wanted to, there's actually a net storage hatch right here, which is super, super cool, guys. And if you look at that, it's pretty standard size for a net, so you can get that net down in there, and it actually turns back that way. So your net will fit in, it'll turn in, and you could just keep that thing stored for those long boat runs. You're going to see, this is kind of testament. It just happens that when I'm doing this walkthrough video, I've got a lot of the new Ike series rods to spool up, so I have a lot out. But I want you to look at how much room is up here, okay? Let me see here. I'll give you a real quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we got 16 rods, 8 and 8, out on the deck. And look at all this room I still have, okay? So that's pretty incredible. But on this side, so this is on the left side, I'm going to use that storage for all my rods. So it's rod locker storage. And if you look at it, this is pretty standard configuration for the way that I use it. So I'll put, 10 or 15 rods below on the bottom of that storage system. And they're the rods that, I don't know that I'm going to be using right away, right? These might be like, oh, if I need to throw a Carolina rig, I know it's down there. If I need to throw a big swim bait, I know it's down there. And then if you look up top, we've got the rod tube organizers. And this is where I'll store the rods that I'm pretty sure I'm going to use for that event or that day of fishing, right? So the ones that I know will be more grab and go, I'm going to put up top. Bass Cat Puma STS, guys, I get 30 rods in there, 32 rods in there, no problem. 32 rods in that rod locker, no problem, right? Not twisted up, not bunched up. That's pretty amazing. On my boats, guys, I know, everybody's different, but I like these bungee strap style rod holders because it allows me to get more in. Those old Velcro style ones I find aren't as forgiving with a lot of rods. So I just use these just bungee style rod straps, and they work great for me. Any of the other tackle that's remaining that I couldn't fit sort of into those other hatches, I bring in here. So it's relatively pretty light. These are just smaller bags of stuff. I tend to do my soft swim baits on this side. If we have hollow-bellied frogs, I tend to do the frogs in here. Spinner baits, chatter baits, stuff like that, especially if they're lighter, I tend to do it in this hatch. So this is kind of my miscellaneous hatch, and you could also put light poles, push poles, stuff like that. Rain suit, I can get stored in that right side, starboard side hatch. So let's head to the nose of the boat, and I'm going to show you how I have this laid out. Did save the best for last for you. Now we're up front to the nose of the boat. Besides the console, this is the second area of this Bass Cat that gets the most work, right? This is where mostly all the fish catching is happening. So this is a good area of the boat. Let's start right with the depth finders, with the sonar units. And you heard me mention that we have a 52-inch screen size limit this year. So if you followed along with my boat builds over the years, you know traditionally I've been doing 3 units up here. I've been doing 2 12s and a 9. And I really like that configuration. using the 9 just for mapping, right? That's how important mapping is for me. But this year, because of the screen size limitation, I changed my configuration and I went to a Lowrance HDS 12 Pro. Oh, Jesus. All right, so because of that, I changed my configuration, and this year I'm running a Lowrance HDS 12 Pro above a Lowrance HDS 16 Pro mounted right on top of each other, okay? Once again, guys, this is on the Bass Logix mount. Incredible mount, and this is the stacked mount where I can do one on top of each other. I love this mount because it is really adjustable, but once I get it in place, guys, look at this. This thing, it's not moving. Super solid mount, and visually, you know, it gives me a really good view, right, of what I'm looking at. So stack units, and again, E-locks on both these. I don't want anybody making off with these units. I have an independent power switch that controls my black box, okay? So in the up position, my black box is powered on. In the down position, my black box is powered off. That way, that black box isn't constantly sucking juice, and the forward facing isn't constantly pinging. For me, I'm using almost a variation of that one we did at the console, right? The top 12, because it's a smaller unit, more standard size unit, I am running a split screen, which is mapping and 2D. Mapping and 2D, okay? Really good system for me because it gives me general information on bottom depth and contour, and it gives me my positioning on a map. And now with this one down here, guys, the 16, the big boy, because of how important forward-facing sonar has become. And listen, you know this. If you follow my stuff, you know I'm not really good at this. I'm not like a giant fan of it, but it is a tool. Until the tournaments outlaw it completely, I have to have it on my boat. And that's the honest truth. So because of that, I'm going to utilize that big 16-inch screen for my forward-facing sonar. Of course, on the fly, I could always change that. I can go to perspective. I can go to down imaging. I could go to 2D. If it's a tournament where all I'm worried about is my positioning, I can change it to map, right? So it's versatile. I can switch these. But in general, mapping and 2D on my top 12, forward-facing on my bottom 16. And when we add all these screen sizes up, I'm below 52 inches. The HydroWave. So this is a TH Marine product that I put on my boat every year, and every year I get questions about it. Man, does that thing really work? Come on, man. Does sound really work? Because I wouldn't be putting these things on these boats if there wasn't a time and a place for the HydroWave. And the HydroWave, for me, the best way I can tell you is explain it like this. If the fish are schooled up, if the fish are grouped up together and they're eating bait fish, they're eating forage, bait forage, I've seen this thing work 100%. And I like the ability to turn it on and off. So it's a good position. It keeps it out of the way. I'm always going to run a HydroWave unit no matter what. Now we've got the Lowrance Ghost, probably the best trolling motor I've ever used in my entire career. Brushless. This motor head is brushless, so way more quiet, way more powerful, lot more power, and then really it cuts down on the heat, so it lasts longer. It's better on your batteries. The other thing I love about the Ghost, guys, 130 pounds of thrust. Okay. A lot of the trolling motors for these big boats they're 80, they're 90, they're 100 pounds of thrust. This is 130 pounds of thrust. Guys, I've been running this thing since it came out. It's a great trolling motor. Running it on 36 volt in this application. And, you know, if you look at it, I got a little tricked out with, of course, we've got the TH Marine socks on here. We've got a big long sock for this. I've got a TH Marine sock over here. And all these little TH Marine socks and Velcro just keep all the wiring really nice. You know, just kind of keeps everything perfect. This is a brand new mount for me this year for my forward-facing transducer. And once again, this is a brand new mount by BOATWORKS. The same company that's making my unit mounts are now making a mount for this. I love this mount because it's heavy duty. It's got a little bit of flexibility if you hit something while you're trolling, but I can very easily change this from forward facing to perspective. It's a real easy mount to change on the fly. I love that. In the Bassmaster Elite events now, we're only limited to one forward facing unit, transducer. So have the ability to just change on the fly like that, guys, I love it. This is something that I added last year. This is just a little custom indicator, and this gives me just a little bit more accuracy when I'm using FFS, okay? And, you know, it just basically, if you look at it, it's on a knob. When I'm not using it, I can trim that down. When I'm using forward facing, I basically have that thing pointing up. And when you're standing, you have this real bright orange, fluorescent orange indicator that shows you exactly where to make that cast. If you're a Vegas to Hammer, you don't need that. If you're an old blind guy like me, that's a nice addition. Guys, this is another really cool TH Marine product for the Lowrance Ghost. And this is just a troll tamer. And, you know, if you look at it, it's a support system for this rod. It supports the rod that holds this trolling motor from bouncing around, but it actually locks in. So I'm not going to unlock it. I'm going to show you. There's no movement of that whatsoever. But when I come up front and I'm ready to deploy my trolling motor, I just kick this pin with my foot, with the tip of my foot, kick that pin, and when I pull it, it comes right up, okay? When I'm done trolling and I'm ready to make a run, I just simply pull it down and it locks into place. And there it goes, it's secure again. So this little tiny little add-on TH Marine troll tamer, very, 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 very valuable piece of equipment, guys. I do want to show you the trailer a little bit. And, you know, this thing is kind of forgotten about, but Bass Cat builds an amazing trailer, and this trailer for the Puma STS is no exception. So some of the cool things that they do, and remember, this is not stuff I'm adding. This is stuff that they're doing. We got a spare hub built right in here on this frame, and the mount is welded on the frame. So if something would happen to your hub, if you had a hub seize up or you had something happen to your hub, guys, we got the whole entire assembly right here to replace it. Of course, we've got a spare tire. One of the things I do add is I add TH Marine trailer lighting. So I have, just with a push of a button, I can light up this entire trailer, and it lights up red just like my boat. We've got our spare tire, and then the last feature I wanted to show you on this trailer that's amazing is an emergency brake. I know this sounds kind of strange, but you know, if you're parking on a hill, if you've got a slant to a driveway, or you're parking on a street, the days of having to find a rock or putting something behind the tire are over. Basically, it's just got an emergency brake system. I engage that brake down. Those back wheels aren't moving. The brake is on. When I'm ready to go, I engage that emergency brake system up, and I'm ready to trailer. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough for the 2025 tournament rig. This is the Bass Cat Puma STS, Yamaha Show, Power Poles, Lowrance, Ghost trolling motor, the whole nine. Hope you enjoyed this walkthrough, and you're going to see it put to good use this coming year. Bye.